ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Thursday Night Football Overtime. Steelers, Browns, AFC North family business. If these two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. And man, that was some good, wholesome, quality AFC North family business. This is why I advocate for all Thursday night games being divisional games. Generally, you're going to get a good contest 8 out of 10 times. We had Patriots, Jets earlier this season, stinker. Last week, I thought it was an okay game. It wasn't great if you weren't a fan of those two teams necessarily, but I thought it was a good game. But generally speaking, you're going to get a competitive game. Bills Dolphins was an ass kicking earlier this season in game 2. It got a concussion in. But 8 times out of 10, you're going to get a quality contest between two teams that know one another. Anyway, this is the second time this season the Browns have beaten a team that was atop the division at the time of the contest. Earlier this season, they beat the Ravens in Cleveland. Now they have beaten the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is why it is very important to understand the family business and know the season series, understanding how the trends of the series. This is why I say if it's not your family business, stay out of it because you don't know how their business is conducted. They beat the Steelers 5 out of 6 times, have the Cleveland Browns. So this is not a surprise to those who know. If you don't know, then you don't know. But this is the fear of the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is why people can't buy into the Steelers. I was reading a little bit of Twitter beef earlier today. TJ Watt, or JJ Watt, excuse me, took to X to throw a shot at one Dan Orlovsky of ESPN, who tweeted out, he's not buying the Steelers because you can't beat Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes with just field goals. And to that, JJ Watt responded, it's funny to hear someone say you can't beat one of these quarterbacks or you can't win games in the playoffs against these types of teams with these quarterbacks with all field goals when we just watched a quarterback in Lamar Jackson lose a game, or in this case, the Steelers win a game with all field goals. He said that's like a quarterback running out of the back of the end zone. So again, you see the shot that he was taking at Dan Orlovsky. But when you peel back the actual statement that Orlovsky made, I don't think any of us disagree with that assessment that this is why you don't buy Steelers stock. I've already said, I still, even after the Ravens lost the game, I still think they're going to win that division. I've got a hot take for you with this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I'll get to that a little bit later on tonight, but this is the fear, right? They don't score enough points. Their red zone efficiency sucks. This is the problem with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They don't score enough points, and you're putting too much pressure on that defense every single week to be outstanding. And if they're not going to win most weeks. And again, you're not beating Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills scoring 18 to 21 points. You're not beating Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs kicking 6 field goals or kicking 2 field goals and scoring 2 touchdowns and scoring 20 points. You're not going to beat teams that can score the ball. And even though the Chiefs haven't been world beaters offensively, we know what happens when it comes playoff time. You can throw all of that shit out the window. They're going to turn it up and they're going to get it done come postseason time. And so I don't think a lot of people are buying what the Steelers are selling because they don't score enough points. Case in point again tonight, weren't able to score enough points. We'll come back to the Steelers a little bit later on, but to the victors go the spoils. It haven't been many wins this season for the Cleveland Browns, now improving to 3-8. Let me just say this. If you are a Commanders fan, I hope you were taking notes and watching this game. This is why you can't just look at an opponent, especially when it's family business, look at their record and say, oh, we should dust them off. It's the NFL. They get paid too. And especially when it's family business, it means something. Now, with that said, Browns were at home, gave it a little bit extra juice. The weather also probably played a little bit of a factor there too, but they were struggling when the weather wasn't, when it wasn't a damn essentially a blizzard, right? It was, they were struggling with Myles Garrett. They couldn't block him. They couldn't finish possessions. We'll get to the Steelers. This is about the Browns first. Big win for them. Myles Garrett continues to just show people, just a quick reminder in case you forgot, and guys like him love this stage, right? Look, we suck. We're 2-8 coming into the game. If you're the Browns, you're Myles Garrett. This is my opportunity just to remind everybody that I was the defensive player of the year last year, just in case you forgot. And I know we're not good, but just in case you need a reminder, everyone's watching. Let me remind you why I am that guy. And he wrecked the first half of this game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, he wrecked the game. They could do nothing with him. Even when they chipped him, he still found a way to wreak havoc. 2 sacks, a forced fumble. He was definitely the Myles Garrett that we saw last year and have come to know and love in this league over the life of his career. And so that allowed them in some big stops on really, this game was won on 4th downs. If we're going to be honest with each other, I think the Browns ended up either 4 of 4 or 5 of 5 on 4th down. Meanwhile, I think the Steelers were like 1 of 3 or 1 of 4 on 4th downs. Let me look it up. Feel like they only converted 1 4th down, did the Steelers tonight. Steelers were 1 of 3. The Browns were 4 of 4. That's where the game was won, honestly speaking. Was the Browns' ability to convert in those 4th down situations, and conversely, the Steelers' inability to take advantage of some of those 4th down opportunities that they went for. They missed a field goal early in the game. I didn't know if I necessarily agreed with kicking a field goal from 58 yards out in this particular, even though the conditions weren't as bad. It was snowing at kickoff. So I wasn't in favor of a 58-yard field goal at that juncture of the game with the conditions being what they were. But he had the distance. He just didn't have the accuracy. But credit the Browns for making those big plays. Jameis Winston, a walking soundbite. I have a love-hate relationship with Jameis. His microphone work is something to behold. But I don't love it. I don't love the mic work. And I think he loves the mic just as much as he does playing the game. I think he now understands that life after football probably is going to be behind some sort of mic, whether he's a pastor somewhere or he's working at someone's studio. But there is a profession with him speaking, orating in some shape, or form down the road. And I think he understands that. And, the less you play, here's my way to be impactful is to say something crazy and it'll go viral. And nobody does it better than Jameis, right? But he played his ass off tonight. And look, with Jameis, just like a lot of these gunslingers, you got to take the good with the bad. He had an interception tonight, a bag one. Could have thrown another one, but also was forced to fumble on a play where he got, hit from behind by Nate Herbig. But is his name Nate? I swear I call him his brother all the time. Let me make sure I got his name right. I think his Nick. I always call him Nate. Let's stop doing that. By Nick Herbig. And but even with the 2 turnovers, that play on 4th down where he jumps and dives into the end zone, that is epic. That could be a photo. The NFL posted on X a dope angle of it that is just beautiful to watch. What a fun game, right? What a fun game. What snow games are fun, right? Like I know this has nothing to do with nothing, but it reminds me of my childhood. Playing snow football in the snow. When they got the pick off of Jameis, when Dante Jackson got the pick and he ran into the end zone and he slid in the snow in the end zone. And his teammates slid down there with him and they did snow angels, all that stuff. Did you see DeMonte Casey pick up a snowball and he hit the shit out of his teammate with that snowball? He winded up, pow, hit him. He took off running. His teammate picked up the snow, tried to get him, but he was running too fast. He couldn't get him back. Like, they were having fun. Like, that's what football is supposed to be. Like, sports in general is supposed to be fun, right? You get in the snow and it brings the kid out of everybody. That's fun. Just watching it was fun, right? My wife is like, I'm watching this game, I'm smiling, I'm enjoying it. She's like, who'd you pick, the Steelers? Like, I was like, yeah. She's like, because I was like, got really into it. And she's like, normally I have a side. I need this team to win. I'm like, I don't care who wins. Everybody picked Pittsburgh. If I lose this game, if somebody picked Cleveland to win, they aren't anywhere near the top of the leaderboard. Everyone's taking this L with me. I could care less who wins this game. I just want to see this game be good and have fun, and it was. But Jameis had fun tonight. And Jameis made some plays. That play where he dives into the end zone, the battery comes out of his helmet. He's like, hey, the battery's out. What do I do? They're like, hey, go for 2, get back in there. And then he throws the dime, and Njoku, who had just the 2 plays earlier dropped the touchdown. Great play by Patrick Queen to knock it out of his hands, but he should have caught that football. And so he makes a great catch, and they get the 2-point conversion. And I'm sitting there watching it. At that point, it's 18-6, and I'm saying, you got to be effing kidding me. The Browns are really going to beat the Steelers here after that emotional win. I sat on the podcast not even 5 hours ago, and I talked about that emotional win by the Steelers and how they could be set up for, a letdown here 4 days later, but it's not going to happen because they're better than the Browns, and they're going to go out and they're going to exert their will and they're going to get it done. But it's a quick turnaround, but they're going to win. I'd be shocked if they lose this game. I said it could be inclement weather. The forecast calls for snow, but the Steelers are made for this. And I'm that's ringing in my head as it's 18-6. And then they put Justin Fields in, of all things. And I'm like, what the hell are they doing? And they rallied. But to the Browns' credit, even after the Jameis fumble, even after the Steelers took the lead, even after Jameis threw the pick and it seemed like, all was lost, they didn't give up. They got the necessary stop. The Steelers punter, you could argue that's one of the biggest plays of the game. That Waitman punt that went 15 yards essentially gave the Browns life. He punts that thing 45 yards. He punts that thing 50 yards with little to no return, and they got to drive the length of the field. I don't think they're going to be able to do it personally. But because he punted it 15 yards, they were already in prime position to, at least get an attempt at a field goal. All they had to do was get 1 first down, which they did, and put them in a position to, kick the field goal. But, they bypassed the field goal, was able to get the touchdown. And what was so ironic is when it's perfect conditions outside, the weather is fair. The weather is fair. And there are no variables or factors impacting the game. Jerry Jeudy couldn't catch claps in a whorehouse. You get into inclement weather, snow everywhere. It's a blizzard. You can't hardly even see. And Jerry Jeudy's hands turn into goddamn, what's the name of the monkey glue, right? His hands turn into damn sticky tack. He's catching everything. I'm like, who is this masked man? This can't be Jerry Jeudy, right? Yeah, it was amazing watching the Browns just find a way to get it done. They made every big play down the stretch. And what the only thing that could have set this game off even more was if that Hail Mary at the end was completed. Like that would have been the perfect icing on what was a great cake on Thursday Night Football, a snowy cake, but a great cake nonetheless. Our first snow game of the year. I think we may get another 49ers and Packers this Sunday. Calls for snow in the forecast at Lambeau. And so that'll be interesting to see if that game ultimately has snow in it. But this is a ton of fun. The Browns made every play. Nick Chubb, it's good to see him back on a football field making plays. Scored the game-winning touchdown there. I just thought it was a really well-played game by Jameis Winston. Made a lot of plays with his legs. You know, there's the throw. That's a ridiculous throw, guys and gals. That throw he makes to Jerry Jeudy on that third down where he rolls out to his right. He's heading towards the sideline. I'm like, he's approaching the line of scrimmage. He's getting close, and he throws that football, and I'm like, this is going to get picked off. I'm saying that this is where he makes another one of those Jameis Winston decisions that gets picked off, and they end up losing this game 19 to 18, right? And somehow there's a Steelers defender in front. There's a Steelers defender behind, and it somehow clears the defender in the front. Jeudy jumps in front of the defender that's behind him and snatches that ball down, and I'm just like, unreal. You know how hard it is to get a ball up and down over a defender like that? That was insane, that throw was. And I don't know what happened to him, you know, on that play, because it didn't really look like he got hit by Patrick Queen there, but he trips, he falls down, and he gets up, and he's kind of limping. And but he kept escaping the pocket. Like every time you thought they were going to get him, their left tackle got away with an epic hold on that diving touchdown that he had, where he leaps and gets his legs cut from under him and folds backwards, but scores the touchdown on that fourth down. He got away with a mean hold on Nick Herbig. That's the reason why Jameis didn't get sacked on that play. But Herbig would get his revenge, obviously, later on in the game. But I gotta credit the Browns, man. That took a lot of intestinal fortitude. That's why these guys are professionals, because at 2-8, you could easily pack it in. What are you playing for? You're not making the playoffs, right? There was enough adversity in that game for them to lose. After being up 12 and seemingly in total control of a game that is moving at a very rapid rate of speed at that time and is being played in a, pseudo blizzard, that game felt over at 18-6. And the Steelers, in a matter of maybe 10 minutes, overcomes a 12-point deficit and takes the lead. And then not only do they take the lead, you throw an interception after moving the ball close to field goal range. You throw an interception and wipe away a scoring opportunity that may give you the lead. There was enough adversity in this game for them to say, you know what, we're 2-8. We gave it a run. It's not our night. But they never quit. And it's a hell of a win for the Cleveland Browns. And as good of a win as it is for the Browns, it's as demoralizing a loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're now 8-3 on the season. And let's talk about how they lost this game, because I understand the Steelers fans that are upset with Mike Tomlin with his game management. I get it. Tonight was one of those nights where he cost you an opportunity in the first half with his clock management. He cost you an opportunity at the end of the game with his clock management, wasting a timeout because of personnel with that 3rd and 7. First of all, I'm not taking a 5-yard penalty in that situation and making it 3rd and 7. Not doing it. I'm going to trust my defense. I'm going to give the Browns one chance to get a first down, or you're going to come kick this field goal from wherever they are on the field. It's 4th and 2. You got to make a decision. I'm not going to give you 2 downs to get 7 yards, right? If you're going to go for it. I'm not giving you 2 downs 1 down, 4th and 2. If you run it, we're going to stop you. If you throw it, we're going to try to get pressure on you. But I'm not giving you any more downs. He waffled back and forth. Do we take the penalty? Do we decline it? I think he thought that it came with a loss of down. It doesn't. It was illegal touching. I would have declined the penalty. But that's subject to, your interpretation of what was the best thing to do. That's subjective. That's not cut and dry. It's not black and white. What I think, what you think, and what somebody else thinks should have been done there could be all different things, right? Where I thought he went wrong was first of all, you wasted a timeout on offense early in the second half. You knew this was going to be a close game with the way you were playing. You were already down. You couldn't afford to be wasting timeouts there. You wasted one there. Did the same thing in the first half. Wasted timeouts in the first half. And then when you had a chance to call a timeout at the end of the first half, instead of allowing the Browns to bleed all of that clock and save a time, what you saving a timeout for? The time is more valuable than the timeout, right? You save the timeout because it allows you to work the middle of the field at any time. It could be 19 seconds. If you still have that timeout in your back pocket, you can still work the middle of the field. If it's 11 seconds, you can still work the middle of the field because you still have that timeout. That's great. But I'd much rather have a minute and 13 seconds and no timeouts, or a minute and 20. I think it would have been like a minute and 20 and no timeouts versus 41 seconds and a timeout. I'd much rather have the time. I can do a lot more with the time. I can get out of bounds. There's other things I can do to make that time stretch versus less time, but I got a timeout. Like, that was poor clock management before half, because you could have got yourself in a position to maybe attempt a field goal there. Obviously, they ran out of time, so that didn't happen. The second half, I thought they squandered one timeout early, and then they squandered another one when they didn't have the personnel. This is all after you waffled back and forth. Are we going to decline the penalty? Are we going to take it? And then you got personnel issues, all of that shit, and you still don't have the right guys on the field and have to burn a timeout. That's insane. And you needed that timeout late, because if you had that second timeout, then you would have been able to call one on the defensive side when the Browns were, eating up the clock, and you would have had a better chance, to get yourself into a position where you could have thrown to the end zone if need be. But again, poor clock management there and poor usage of those timeouts. But let's get past all of that. Here's where the game was lost if you're the Steelers. You had a chance early, and I always talk about this when you're playing bad teams. You have to set the tone early. They squandered opportunity after opportunity after opportunity early in this game, and they were so out of sorts. Watching this, it was incredible to see them. It's 4th down, and so let's start with the first one. They drive down the field on the opening possession, and they have to settle for a 58-yard field goal. Do you go for it there in that situation? I don't remember how long it was on 4th down, but they decided to opt to kick the field goal. Okay. Well, Boswell is standing there, and it's 1 second on the clock. Like, they rushed. The whole operation was rushed, right? I don't know, what happened, why they got out there so late, why they weren't set up fast enough. But Boswell, normally kickers get back there. There's about 10 seconds left. They shimmy their shoulders. They look up. They do whatever their routine is. They look down and they tell the holder, hey, I'm ready. He looks at the snapper, hits his hand. The ball comes back. They put it down, all of that stuff. That's about a 10 to 12 second operation there. You don't want to rush that, because that's the routine the kicker needs to get into the zone to make the kick. He gets back there. There's 5 seconds. He doesn't get to do his thing. He looks up at the snapper like, hey, just snap the damn ball. They snap it with 1 second left. He rushes it. He misses. I'm like, that was odd, right? What are you doing? But that wasn't the first time, right? The next possession, they go down the field. They get into a 4th down situation. It's like 4th and 1, I believe it was. And it's the same thing. There's 2 seconds on the clock. They break the huddle with like 5 seconds. They run Cordero Patterson all the way out wide, and there's 2 seconds left. He barely gets set. They snap the ball. They're rushing, and the Browns blow the play up, and they tackle him for a loss, and they don't get the first. I'm like, what are we doing here, guys? Are you kidding me? 4th down, and this is the best execution you have. You can't get the play call in. You can't get out of the huddle. You can't get to the line of scrimmage with enough time to set up. This is ridiculous. Then it happens a 3rd time, right, where they go for it. It's everything's happening so fast. They get up there, they snap the ball. I'm like, you got to go boot. They've stopped you on 4th down already once running the football. You got to go boot here. You can't just run it up in there. It ain't happening. The Fields play was the one where they ran Cordero Patterson all the way out wide. And then Fields ran the wrong way, right? They pull the guard over. He blocks the guy on the edge. There is nobody on the left side of the field, and he runs right where all the Browns defenders are. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing, right? And then the last one, or the next one, they get to the line of scrimmage. There's 2 seconds left. They're rushing. They snap it. They get stopped, right? And I'm just like, this is mind-numbing. So you miss a field goal. You drive into Browns territory on the next possession. You go for it and get stopped on downs. Then you fumble. You fumble, right? But you didn't lose anything there because the defense came on the field, got a 3 and out, and they didn't get anything out of it. But you fumble. Then you go for it on 4th down again, and you get stopped again. So these are all these missed opportunities, and you're looking at the game, and it's at this point, I think it's 3-0, and I'm saying they're gaining confidence. I'm looking at the Browns, and I said, they're gaining confidence. Fans are banging the damn side stanchion, and shit's loud, and, Myles Garrett is getting them going, and Jameis is like, hey, we still here. Like, we ain't done shit, 2 3 and outs, and it's only 3, I think it was 3-0 or it was 0-0. Hey, let's go win this damn game. And all of a sudden, the Browns had all that confidence, and you miss those opportunities, and you start giving the Browns confidence, and they start looking up and they say, "Oh shit, it's halftime, and we right in this game. We're winning, right?" They get to the 3rd quarter, and they're like, "Yo, why not us? Why not us tonight?" Now it's 18-6. Let's beat these boys. And you saw that confidence carry them through even after adversity hit. And I keep talking about this Steelers team because their inability to score in the red zone, the inability of them to take advantage of some of these opportunities is why people aren't sold on Pittsburgh. Here is my, you know what? Let's get to Inside the Odds powered by BetUS first, and then I'm going to give you my hot take I have for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's go Inside the Odds, brought to you by BetUS.
Inside the Odds.
Looking for a new book? BetUS has you covered. I've said this. You should be all over the place. If you're looking for loyalty, then BetUS has you covered. But if you're betting with somebody else right now, you should be giving all these other books a look-see. Who's giving you the best odds? BetUS. Fastest payouts in the industry. Get up to 10% back on your net losses twice a year as long as you've been active for a 6-month period. And then here's the big kicker. If you've never used BetUS before, if you're a brand new user, I've got a promo code for you. Use the promo code YouTube150 to get you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit of up to $2,000. Those next 2 deposits up to 125% sign-up bonus of up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. So these were the odds brought to you by BetUS. The Steelers were 3.5-point favorites. I always encourage you to buy the half point. No need of sitting there at 3.5, and then the game ends up being a 4-point game. Buy the half point, get you to 4. Didn't matter. I said this when I was going over the game on my podcast earlier that the Steelers were going to cover this spread. But I also told you, I said, this is scary if you're a Steelers fan. I literally said this. When Vegas has the number that short, and you're an 8-2 team playing against a 2-8 team, Vegas is not pulling these numbers out of their asshole, okay? They're not making this shit up like, Steelers and Browns. Just make it 3.5. No, you don't think they took into consideration that the Browns have beaten the Steelers 4 out of the last 5 times these two teams have met? Nobody cares if the game was in week 18 and the Steelers didn't need the game. The Browns have beaten the Steelers 4 out of the last 5 times. You don't think they took that into consideration? You don't think they took into consideration that it was going to be inclement weather? You don't think they took into consideration that the Steelers don't score points? Yes, they took all of those things into consideration, and they said 3.5 is the number. That's scary. Okay? Anytime the number is that short and you're that much better record-wise than the team, that should scare the hell out of you. It scared me, but I still was determined that the Steelers were going to find a way to win. And when it was 19-18, and they got the interception, I said, I knew they were going to find a way to win this damn game. Didn't think it would be this close, but I knew they'd find a way to win. And I was shocked when they didn't get it done. Shocked. The over-under total, 37 in this game. The final score ended up being 24-19, if I'm not mistaken. So they hit the over on that total. 46 ended up being the total there. So a lot more points scored than I had 36, right? I think I told y'all I thought the score would be 23-13, I think I said. So I would have been under on that total. And they obviously clearly went over on this total. But shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream and the segment inside the odds. Now, here's my hot take with the Steelers. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to pull up the Steelers schedule. The Steelers are 8-3. I think the Steelers have a shot to miss the playoffs. Yeah, I know this sounds wild. Let's talk about it though. Let's just, before you say Louie T, shut the hell up. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Let's just humor me for a second, okay? Just hear me out. They lose tonight, and I was thinking to myself, if they lose tonight, they could be in some trouble. All right. They're 8-3. Now, mind you, there aren't a bunch of great teams in the AFC. Okay. It'd be one thing if there was, a bunch of competition, and there's the Colts, the Broncos, the Chargers, and there may be some team like the Dolphins coming off the pace, but it's really those 3 teams. And I don't trust Indy, neither do you. And this is why the when it's all said and done, Steelers are probably going to make the playoffs. But just for the sake of this argument, they're 8-3. They go to Cincinnati now. I get it. Cincinnati can't beat any damn body. They know how to beat the damn Steelers, though, especially in Cincinnati. Now, again, don't know what Cincinnati Bengals defense is going to show up, but the Steelers can't score. And if Joe Burrow has the shit going and that defense is able to just somehow magically get a couple of stops, they can go to Cincinnati and lose next week. Then after that, they play these Browns again, probably going to beat them that time, right? Probably going to beat the Browns that time. But then after that, they go to Philadelphia. They're going to lose that game. They go to Baltimore. They're going to lose that game. They play the Chiefs at home, probably going to lose that game too, right? Now, all of a sudden, just like that, poof, you're 9-7, fighting for your playoff life. Think about it. If they don't beat Cincinnati next week, that's 2 in a row. And now you're playing this Browns team that's got confidence because they beat you just, 2 weeks before, right? 17 days or whatever prior. Probably going to beat them. But I don't see them going on the road and beating Philadelphia. I don't see them going on the road and beating Baltimore. I don't see them beating Kansas City Chiefs at home. That's 3 straight losses. That's 5 out of 6 at that point if they don't beat Cincinnati. All of a sudden, you went from 8-2 to 9-7 and fighting for your playoff life. And again, who knows what Denver's going to do? Who knows what the Chargers are going to do, right? Chargers are going to make the playoffs. I'm writing the Chargers in already. So let's talk about the AFC. Let's just talk about the AFC for a second, right? Because I think we've done this exercise. Let's do it again now with a different thing in mind, with a different angle in mind. All right, let's talk about it. So Bills are winning the AFC East. They've already won the AFC East. They're 9-2, and the team with the most wins is 4 with the Miami Dolphins, right? They've already won the division. All right. So the Bills are your AFC East winner. Either the Chiefs or the Chargers are going to win the West. It's the Chiefs, right? What am I saying? Chiefs are going to win the West. Bills are going to win the East. All right. Texans are going to win the South, right? So that's 3 teams. And then I think the Ravens are going to win the North. But okay, well, let's just go with the Ravens for now, right? Ravens win the North. So those are your 4 division winners. Chargers are definitely making the playoffs. That's 5, right? I think the Broncos are going to make the playoffs with that defense. Now, we'll see what Bo Nix is able to do, and they got some big boy games. I'm not counting. I told you I refuse to count out the Bengals. I refuse to do it. And they play the Broncos, and they play these Steelers twice. I refuse. That could be that Week 18 game in Pittsburgh. Steelers and Bengals could be for a playoff spot. Believe it or not, that game next week is huge. If Cincinnati wants to save its season, if they want to be in, when we look at that graphic, and it comes right at Thanksgiving, that graphic that says division leaders in the hunt, right? It still alive down at the very bottom. If you want to stay out of the still alive category and you want to be in the hunt, if you're Cincinnati, you got to beat Pittsburgh next week. If I'm not mistaken, Cincinnati should be on their bye week this week. They should be. I could be wrong about that. But you got to beat Cincinnati. You got to beat Pittsburgh next week. And if they do that at home, it'll put them at 5-7, I believe. I think they're 4-7 right now. It'll put them at 5-7. And all of a sudden now, here we go. And if the Chargers are your wild card, your first wild card, if the Broncos are another wild card, there's 1 spot left. We all assumed that the AFC North 2-bid division, right? AFC West 2-bid division, could be a 3-bid division, but we said 2-2, 1 in the South and 1 in the East, right? So someone else was getting 3. And the division that felt like it was getting 3 was the West, because it felt like Cincinnati just was never going to get their shit together. Well, what if Cincinnati all of a sudden gets their shit together? And it starts with beating Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh, remember, 5 out of their final 6 games are all divisional foes, like starting with tonight. Well, last week, I think they had, last week they were 7-2, so they had 8 games left. 6 out of their final 8 games were division games, because they hadn't played any divisional opponents until last week against Baltimore, right? So they played another one today. Now they got 4 division games left in their final 6 games. Those are tough. We just saw it tonight. It's tough. They got Cincinnati next week. That's tough. On the road, right? They got to go to Baltimore on the road. They got to go to Philadelphia on the road. They're home for Kansas City. That could easily be a loss. Like, this is a tough go of it. I could see them tail spinning here. If they can't score points and they've been turning the ball over here lately, turned it over tonight, turned it over a little bit last week. Now they still create turnovers, but if they can't score points and that defense can't hold up, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, they're probably going to make the playoffs, because they're probably going to win a game or two that on paper it looks, man, that's tough, but they find a way to grind it out because that's what they do, right? Probably going to beat somebody like Kansas City, or, I mean, hell, just beat Cincinnati. Everybody else is doing it, right? Just beat Cincinnati and you're fine. All of this goes away if you beat Cincinnati next week, because I don't think they're getting swept by the Browns. So if you beat Cincinnati next week and then you beat the Browns, you're at 10. It's a dead issue. Let's move on. They're making the playoffs, right? The magic number is 10. You get to 10, you're making the playoffs in the AFC, because there's just not enough good teams to put you out of there, right? Now, if you're in the NFC, different story, right? with the way the North is set up in the NFC with a 7, an 8, and a 9 win team, and then the 2 teams in the East, shit gets thick in the NFC if you were the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're looking at that daunting schedule. But you're in the AFC, and the wild card really ain't shit after Cincinnati, after the Chargers. It's the 6-5 Broncos and the 5-6, Colts and the 4-7 Bengals. Like, you got a lot of rope if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'm saying all of this, they're still leading their division, right? They're still the division leaders, right? I'm being very disrespectful right now to what they've built this season with 1 loss. But it's a microcosm, and the reason I feel this way is tonight's loss is a microcosm of what they've been this season for the most part. And again, how many times can you get away winning a game 18 to 10? It's kicking 6 field goals, 18 to 16. How many times? Like, I've lived that as a fan and been a part of a house of cards, winning games 17 to 15. We won 2 games in the same season, 17 to 15. Do you know how hard it is to win a game 17 to 15? We did it twice in one season. But that's a mirage, right? If you can't score, it's going to be hard to win games consistently in this league. And now the schedule's really going to get tough. The schedule's really going to get tough. And so I'm questioning this Steelers team, man. We'll see what happens. But if it turns out to happen, you heard it here first. If it doesn't, it shouldn't, man. I mean, they're 8-3. It shouldn't happen. They should be able to beat Cleveland. They should be able to at least split with the Browns or the Bengals, right? And if you do that, that's 10 wins. 10 will get you in the AFC. 10 will get you in. But if they get stuck on 9, and again, that would mean they would have been swept by either the Browns or the Bengals to get to 9, because they're going to win one of those games, I believe. Like, I don't see them getting swept by both the Bengals and the Browns. I think they're going to split in the division with every team. They've already beaten Baltimore. Baltimore is going to exact a measure of revenge when they come to Bmore, right? They've already lost to Cleveland now. I think they're going to get Cleveland when they come to Pittsburgh. Can they take down Cincinnati in Cincinnati? Everybody else is doing it. If they can do that, then they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine because they're going to beat Cleveland the next time. If they lose to Cincinnati next week, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. Y'all know what it is. If you're out there, you want your comment read, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if time permits. We'll get to as many comments as we can, but I can't assure you that we'll get to your comment. The only way I can assure you that that takes place is if you use the super chat function. Super chats allow your comments to be read on the air and reacted to, and you jump straight to the front of the line. So if you want to ensure that your comment is read and reacted to, super chat is the way to do that. So with that said, let's get to our first comment. And it's from my guy, Swaggy P, been a member for 25 months. My guy, Swaggy P, truly appreciate you. Who writes, Pickens in the stands fighting Browns fans, shaking my head. My wife, my wife was talking to me about Pickens like mid-third quarter. She's like, he's not all there, is he? And I'm like, yeah, nah. She's like, yeah, something's off with that dude. I'm like, yeah, he's crazy. He's crazy. And sure enough, we get to the end of the game, and he's probably just mad because they lost. Maybe a fan hit him with a snowball. Like, anything could happen. I don't know what set him off, but he's one of those dudes that if they lose the game and somebody says something to him, he might just get mad and be ready to fight, right? So, end of the game, Hail Mary situation, balls, batted down, it's over. And next thing you know, I see George Pickens in the stands going after a fan. I'm like, somebody go get this man. What are we doing here? Where's his helmet? What are we doing right now? Okay, somebody get this clown, right? So I don't. what is it about the Steelers and these crazy ass receivers? They always seem to have one, right? Whether it was Martavis Bryant, Antonio Brown, obviously George Pickens. What I later found out with your boy from Notre Dame that they traded to the Bears, his ass wasn't all there either, right? He was a little cuckoo, right? So what is it with the Steelers and these damn receivers, man? They sure know how to pick them. He's talented, though. He's talented, but damn. Yeah, I don't know about George Pickens, man. he's cut from a different cloth. Or as a wise man once said, he's one taco short of a combination plate. So, Jay Black, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Jay writes, I would be lying if I said I'm not nervous for Sunday after that, but we're not letting we not them. Let's roll these bums. We're not them, right? We score points, but you'd be a damn fool to think that Dallas is just going to lie down for us. They're going to make it tough, and we're going to have to take it to them. They're not going to just hand it to us. We're going to have to take it to them and hey, give me this damn dub. We're going to have to take it from them. And I always tell you the key to beating the brakes off of somebody is to assert dominance early. Now, here's the thing with the Cowboys, and I don't know if you caught my NFC East Super Friends one-on-one stream with Game Time Brian, but he said that they normally keep it close early. Their problem is in the second half, primarily the third quarter. That's when things usually get away from them. And they were in the game against Philadelphia. Remember, that's a 13-6 game at halftime. And then the floodgates opened in the third quarter. And then that thing, before you blinked twice, and it was 31-6. It ultimately 37 or 34 or whatever it ended up being to 6. That Texans game, they had a chance to either, I think it was 17-10 at halftime. They had a chance to make it 17-13, and your boy missed the field goal, right? Slipped on his kick, and it hit the outside of the upright and kicked off, and it was no good. But they were in that game. And then the Texans got a field goal, and I think it was 20-10 going into the fourth quarter. And then the floodgates opened in the fourth quarter, right, in that game. So they've been in games. When we've been at our best, we've ended teams by halftime or been in a position to put them away early in the third quarter, but we were already up 2 scores at halftime. Like, you can tell when, hey, we finna put belt to ass here, right? You can tell at halftime. You could tell what kind of a night it was against, even though we didn't blow them out, you could see where it was trending when we played Cincinnati. It was 21-10, and they got a field goal, I think, right before the half, but I think it was 21-13 at half. You could see where we was going, right? There was 28-13 because we scored on the first possession after halftime. You could see where that shit was going. You could see where it was going at halftime of the Arizona game. Right? I think it was 20-7. Then we scored after, or 17-7, and then we scored after halftime, and it was 24-7. And you could see where that shit was heading. At halftime against the Browns, you could see where it was heading. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, like 17 or 20-3. You saw where that shit was going, right? And by the fourth quarter, we were resting starters. You could see where it was heading against Carolina. It's 20-0 at halftime. You can see where the shit was going. When we're at our best, you see where it's going at halftime. That's what we need to do. Establish that against Dallas. Greg Q, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Greg writes, Eagles fan here. Got to give you respect for the commitment. I do agree with just about all of your takes. Also, that's actually refreshing and shocking coming from an Eagles fan. But thank you. I respect that, right? I respect that. Appreciate you, Greg Q. Thank you for the support, man. Let's get to the comment section and see what you guys are talking about. A lot of comments, so it's a lot of chatter going on right now. John Wynn says, at least tonight's game is way more entertaining game for you to watch than the Sunday night Texans-Lions game. Well, it wasn't that game wasn't entertaining. I was entertained. I just wasn't happy with the outcome of that game. That was the difference, is I just wasn't happy with the outcome of that game. Metaphor says, of course I was going to pick Cleveland on winners and losers, but play second before submitting change to Pitt. Damn, I always told you, my 8th grade science teacher said Always go with your first answer. It's usually the right answer. So many people second guess themselves, change it. I got one dude that he submits his picks every week, and he submits them 3-4 times, changes his mind like 3-4 times, and I'm like, oh, you're doing all of that to lose 5-6 games. And if you would have left it alone the way you had it the first time, I bet you would have had less losses. But he does it every week. He submits his pick. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm submitting this first pick in the set of picks, because I know he's got another set and then another set after that. And a lot of times you're overthinking it, right? Just go with your gut. The first answer is usually the right answer. It's not always the right answer, but it's usually the right answer. Anyway, I digress. Rocky D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, when it comes to Pittsburgh receivers, a wise man once said, we do not care. Yeah, laughing my ass off. We do not care. Clearly, they do not care in Pittsburgh. They're looking for talent, and they don't care how they're wired or how they're set up. If you can play ball, we do not care. All right. The standard is the standard in Pittsburgh at the receiver position. The standard is the standard. DFW country. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, timing people out because I don't agree. Better check your mods if you want to grow. Look, at the end of the day, I generally trust my mods and their judgment, but I hear this from people a lot of times, and I'm not often looking at the comment section, but I urge my mods to let people express themselves as long as they're not saying anything crazy, talking out of pocket, right? As long as they're not spamming, using a bunch of the same emojis, as we know Eagles fans love to do that. As long as they're not talking politics or some bullshit or talking crazy, or they're not spamming the chat, leave them be, right? Leave them be. It's all good, right? It's all love. But I trust my mods. Generally, their judgment is the right thing. But I appreciate your concern. All right. Royale, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Royale writes, prime example as to why y'all can't beat a team above 500 means nothing. Look, in the NFL, I don't ever apologize for who is put in front of me and disposing of that. As I like to say, if they put trash in front of you, take the trash out. If they put food in front of you, don't play with your food. Eat your food. Consume it. Put it away, right? So often people love to talk about who did you beat? It's hard to win in the NFL. It's hard to win in the National Football League, especially when it's family business. Throw the records out the window. You hear that expression all the time because it is true. The good teams find ways to win the games they're supposed to win. Every now and again, you're going to get got by a team in your division. Right? Even when the Chiefs are rolling, they get got by Denver, and Denver might win 6 games that year, and they get got by Denver because they play defense. It happens. Last year, the Raiders lost, or the Chiefs lost to the Raiders on Christmas, right? They still won the Super Bowl. The Raiders weren't good. They didn't make the playoffs last year. It's family business. Shit happens, right? Every year, teams get got. The Ravens got earlier by these same Browns, right? It's hard to win in this league, which is why when somebody says, who did you beat? I ain't trying to hear that shit. I didn't make the schedule, bro. All I can do is beat the teams they put in front of me. Ain't my fault that team is a 3-win team. Guess what? They're a 3-win team because of teams like me taking them out and taking the trash out, right? If I don't beat them, then they got another win. That's why they got 5 wins. Because the Steelers, for instance, why are they an 8-win team? Because we didn't beat them. We could have beaten them. We should have beaten them. The Ravens could have beat them. They could have lost games this season, but they didn't. They found ways to win. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. This notion of who did you beat? Miss me with that. You know how the Chiefs get to 13 wins every year? Yeah, they play a first place schedule every year. But you know what also is intertwined in that first place schedule? A bunch of subpar teams, the little sisters of the poor that they beat up on. You know who they play this week, the Chiefs do? The Carolina Panthers. Isn't that cute? Isn't that nice? What you think they're going to do to them? You know who Minnesota played last week? You know who Minnesota played the week before that? You know who Detroit played this past week? What are they supposed to do? Not beat up on Jacksonville? That's what you do. If you're a good team, that's what you do. That's how you get to 13, 14, 15 wins. Anyway, I digress. Samuel Serrano Brito writes, ain't no way we got snow before Thanksgiving. Yeah, I didn't think we were going to get snow. But, you know, Cleveland, you get that lake effect snow. That's what happened tonight. Coming right off that lake. Bam, just like that. It went from, they were showing clips from earlier in the game. I told my wife, I said, that's a different game. And she actually thought it was a different game. She said, well, who won that game? I said, no, that's tonight. Oh, no, she said, that's tonight. I'm like, that's tonight. That play you just saw, that was from earlier tonight. You were watching two different games. It's crazy how that happened. Somebody said, yo, George Pickens is a effing menace. George Pickens is definitely a menace, bro. He is definitely cut from a different cloth, for sure. JB, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I'm hoping the Rams do the same thing, Lou. Don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. Now, I did see Devontae Smith has not practiced 2 days in a row with his hamstring. Remember, it was bothering him going into the Thursday night game against us. But I would have thought that the 10 days off would have allowed that hammy to heal up a little bit and he'd be ready to go. But clearly it's still bothering him. But we'll see if he's able to go. If he can't go, that makes things very interesting. But this is the thing. They got Saquon Barkley. And the Rams, they're not stopping the run like that, right? Like, their run defense isn't trash, but it ain't great. And, it doesn't take much for Saquon. And so they'll be fine. They're going to beat the Rams. Stafford, we had this conversation about Stafford, right? You good?
Yeah.
We had this conversation about Stafford. He is old. And if the Eagles, and I don't really think the Eagles pass rush is great, but it's good enough to disrupt him. And once you disrupt Matthew Stafford, the age starts to show. I can see them picking him off 2 or 3 times in that game. So it'd be nice if the Rams did it, but I'm not holding my breath. I'm not holding my breath. And neither should you. Neither should you. I've already told you the 2 games that the Eagles could lose remaining on their schedule. They could lose to the Rams, theoretically speaking. It's a road game, and it's not going to be a super tough environment. But I've already told you Ravens next week and the Commanders in about a month's time are the 2 games that I think they can lose. You can lose any game in the NFL, as we know. We just saw a 2-8 team beat an 8-2 team. But keep in mind that the Eagles can score, which the Steelers cannot. And I've always said, if you want to allow a bad team to beat you, the easiest way to get beat by a team that you're better than is to not score points. Because a lot of times in this league, you rarely find bad teams that are scoring 27, 28 points a game. That is a rare feat, okay? It doesn't happen, all right? It's unheard of. Bad teams are averaging 16.8 points a game, 17.9 points a game, 18.2 points a game. That's what bad teams are doing. They don't score the ball, okay? That's why they lose games. They don't score enough. So if you just score, I always tell y'all when we play teams, when we played the Giants, I said, just score points. Just score 27 points. The Giants can't keep up. What did we do the second game? How many did we score? 27, right? I said, just score 27 points. They can't go that high, okay? When we played Carolina, I said, hey, just make it to the high 20s. If you get it to the 30s, they can't keep up, right? I said, when we played Cleveland, I said, just score 24 points. The Browns won't be able to keep pace. They don't score points. If you just find a way to score against bad teams, you'll win the game, generally speaking. That's why the Steelers are scary, because they don't score points. And because they don't score points consistently, they can lose to anyone. When you don't score points in this league, you allow bad teams to have a chance. And that's why the Steelers scare me. And that's why I think they can miss the playoffs. That's why I think they can miss the playoffs. But again, we will see. We will see. All right. Let's see what you guys have to say. Get to a couple more comments and then we'll get out of here. Let's see. Doesn't look like much of this is pertaining to me. So I think we can get out of here. Love that there is a lot of spirited conversations being had in the comment section. That's good. Hassan Moore says, "Sup, Lou? Sup, Son? Which Commanders do you think or do you have making the Pro Bowl?" It's hard to say right now. There's still, 7 games left this season, 6 for the Commanders, but for most teams, still 7 games left. Really, what's going to determine how many guys we get in is how good we are, right? If we run the table like I think we're capable of doing, you win 13 games, you're going to get 6 or 7 guys into the Pro Bowl. Easy. We flame out down the stretch and you end up with 9 wins, then you might get 1 or 2 guys in, right? Successful teams get rewarded by more players being invited to the Pro Bowl. But right now, Cosme is a Pro Bowler. I personally think Frankie Louvu should be a Pro Bowler. Terry McLaurin is making a case, but again, how does he finish the season? We'll see. Jaden could sneak in there. I mean, let's think about the quarterbacks in the conference, right? Usually 3 guys go as Pro Bowl quarterbacks. Right now in the NFC, none of the MVP candidates are on the NFC side except for Jared Goff. So you would assume he'd be one right now. Who else is any good? Jalen Hurts, right? And then our guy, right? Again, just look around the conference. You tell me. Kyler Murray's playing really well too. I don't want to leave him out. He could easily make the Pro Bowl with the way he's playing this season. But I mean, it's not going to be Sam Darnold. It's not going to be Jordan Love, right? You look at the rest of the teams in the conference. It's not Brock Purdy. It's not any of those quarterbacks out west other than Murray. So I think Jaden Daniels could be one, could make the Pro Bowl. That's, I think, about it, though. So Cosme, Louvu, McLaurin, and Jaden Daniels, 4 guys, I think. I could be missing someone, but I feel like that's the list. That's a pretty good list. Lang Hughes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Lang Hughes writes, "Any chance CD misses practice tomorrow as well? I wouldn't hold my breath." I saw this man making a music video with Trayvon Diggs, I think, at the club like 3-4 nights ago. He's fine. And just probably gave him a day off to rest his back. He's fine. He's playing. I read some quotes from him in the locker room. He didn't sound like a guy that wasn't going to play. He's fine. Don't hold your breath on that. The only guys that you should be looking at that probably won't play are the offensive linemen. And that's a big deal, right? Because they're banged up on the line as is, and they already don't have a ton of depth as is. And so that could hurt them even further if, both of their starting guards can't go. So But don't look for CeeDee Lamb to miss the game. Benjamin Slade, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Benjamin writes, if Sanders balks at draft position, I think it's detrimental to the NFL. What is your thoughts? Yeah, anytime a player has that type of leverage and can determine where he does or doesn't go, it sets a bad precedence, because what's stopping the next guy from saying, I don't want to play for that? Like, that was the whole pushback against Caleb Williams potentially not wanting to go to Chicago. Remember, there were initial reports that he didn't want to go to Chicago, and he had to come out and refute those. Like, I never said I wouldn't go to Chicago. That's crazy talk. But remember, we were having that same conversation. We've seen quarterbacks do that in the past. Elway did it back in '83, right? Was drafted by the Baltimore Colts, didn't want to go to Baltimore, said, I'll go play baseball, and ultimately ended up, with the Denver Broncos. Eli Manning did it in '04, right? Got drafted by the Chargers. His dad said, ain't no way in hell. So his dad played for the Saints, and his career was pretty much destroyed by the Saints because he was a good quarterback, but it was a bad organization. They were poorly run, and they ran his career into the garbage. And so he was like, I'm not letting that shit happen to my son. The Chargers are a poorly run organization. I'm not sending my kid's career to San Diego to die. I'm not doing it. He's not playing in San Diego. And so they had to trade him to the Giants, right? So we've seen it before, but it's not good for business, because if Shedeur does it, what's stopping the next, big time prospect from saying, I'm not going to Tennessee, or I'm not going to play for the Cleveland Browns. I'm not going to play for the Jacksonville Jaguars. What's stopping the next guy from doing that, right? And not everybody is wired that way. Not everybody's going to think that way. Most guys are happy to be the number one pick, don't care where they go. They just want to be the number one pick. But some dudes are like, nah, I'd rather be the 8th pick in the draft and go somewhere good than go number 1 overall to a poorly run franchise. You get drafted by the Jets, that could be the beginning of the end of your career, right? They're a poorly run organization. So, no, it's very detrimental to the NFL if a guy gets, is in a position to be drafted number 1 overall, which Shedeur Sanders is, and the team at the top of the draft is an undesirable location, and he's like, nah, I'm not playing there. Don't draft me. I'm not going there. You don't want that if you're the NFL. That's the point of the draft, right? That's the point, is to keep a competitive balance throughout the league. If you suck, getting the number 1 pick is supposed to help you improve your chances of turning around your franchise's fortunes. That's the point of the draft. Similar to the NBA lottery, it's not the same, but you get more lottery balls, more chances to, win the lottery if you stink, because it's supposed to help keep competitive balance. If a guy has the power to say, I don't want to play for your organization, even though you earned the right by being so bad the year prior, I don't want to play for your organization, then you're undermining the process. So yes, it is detrimental. Like, we say all of this, and we don't know that Shedeur would do that. I'm just telling you, if I could see him balking at the notion of going to a place like Tennessee. I mean, the man is outwardly rooting for the Raiders to lose every week so that he can become a Vegas Raider. Like, you don't see draft prospects who are currently participating in their college season, and very successfully, I may add. They may end up in the actual 12-team playoff if they continue playing the way that they're playing right now. You don't see them tweeting and commenting on what's going on in the NFL and making it abundantly clear, this is where I would like to go. Right? So we'll see. Benjamin Slade, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Who writes, this time different, I think. Could be. Could be different. Again, I'm like I said, Shedeur is an interesting guy, and I've already said it's going to take a special organization to handle all that comes with Shedeur Sanders, because he ain't just football. I think we all already can see that. And you got to deal with his daddy too. So there's a lot that comes with Shedeur Sanders. And I think it's going to take a strong, well-run organization to handle everything. Like, I don't think he would thrive in a big market either, like a New York, for instance. I think that could be the worst place for him. A lot of distractions, a lot of different things that could go on there. For his talents, that would be a great destination. But for the distractions and all of the noise, and that's a big media market. And if shit's not going well early, they're gonna get on him. And I don't think he's gonna handle that well. And then his dad's gonna jump in once the media starts attacking him. And then it becomes a war of words through the media, and then everything becomes non-football related. You really want him to go somewhere, that's like Vegas would be perfect, honestly. Even though that's it's not a massive market. The media is not going to eat you alive out there. Kind of do whatever the hell you want to do, kind of in obscurity, but still be in a big enough market where it's still Vegas, which is probably why he wants to go there. But that's not a extremely well-run organization. The structure isn't tremendous there necessarily. So I could see some issues cropping up there. But I can tell you this much. If he ends up in Vegas with Antonio Pierce, that'd be a match made in heaven, because Antonio Pierce knows how to deal with guys like Shedeur. He coached at the high school level. He's coached in college. He has relationships with guys like Shedeur. And I'm pretty sure Antonio Pierce probably got a relationship with Dion. That's probably why he wants to go there. So anyway, I digress. Take a couple more comments if there are any more, and then we'll get out of here. Let's see if we got anything else aimed at me. If not, we will get out of here. Abel Ambrosio writes, "Don't worry, man. You're going to get your spot back and have LB washing dishes. We'll see about that." We'll see about that. Metaphor says, "You see Madden added Saquon's reverse hurdle to the game?" No, I didn't. I haven't played Madden in 2 decades, bro. I wouldn't be able to tell you anything that goes on with that game. But it's pretty dope. And I'm pretty sure not everybody's going to be able to do that. Not everybody's going to be able to do that move. DCJ says, "You heard the news about RFK." We talked about it a little bit on the Commanders Kings program towards the end. So, yeah, I heard about it, but still a long ways to go, right? But is that truly the best place for the stadium to go? Like, I think as fans, I think we want a full experience, right? Where you turn that area and you transform it into a hotspot, a place to be. And I think Rico had brought up the Battery, which is in Cobb County where the Braves play. There was nothing in Cobb County before they built that stadium. And then they turned that area into a whole scene, right? That's a whole vibe out there. That's what you kind of want. And I don't know if you can really capture that at RFK or not, the old site. I just think it's really nostalgic. I think that's why people want it there. That's where it belongs, to be honest with you. But there's not a lot of space there to do a whole hell of a lot either, right? So, and another thing that would be really, tough is if you want to host events, it's not a lot of, it's not a lot of space. Everybody would be on top of each other if it's in DC. But that's where it belongs. I think most purists would tell you that. That's where it belongs. Benjamin Slade, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, "Glad we had 2 last year, not next." I'm so glad that we got our quarterback situation out of the way when we did. Yeah, that draft, it has a chance to be one of the best quarterback draft classes in a very long time. Like the 2020 class right now is the standard of recent note. Before that class, you probably got to go back to 18 with Allen and Lamar Jackson and and Baker Mayfield. and Sam Darnold, all those guys in that same class back in 18. But before that, the 2012 class had a chance with Robert and Andrew Luck and Tannehill and Whedon, but obviously none of those careers lasted very long except for Tannehill. And he didn't really, he was okay in Tennessee, I guess. You probably got to go all the way back to 04, before that. So this class has a chance to be up there with that 04 class with Roethlisberger and Manning and that group. So we'll see. And Rivers obviously was in that same class as well. This 2024 class has a chance to be in that same conversation. I'm so glad we got our quarterback last year because I don't believe in this class at all. I got people, screaming at me about Jalen Milroe. I'm like, you can have him. I want the Giants to take Jalen Milroe. Please. He's Jalen Hurts he's a faster Jalen Hurts without any accuracy. Please draft him. Please. By all means. Draft him. Draft him. I want you to draft him, please. There are literally 2 quarterbacks in this draft class. I don't believe in Quinn Ewers. I don't believe in the Georgia kid. If I were him, I'd go back to school next year. Like, I wouldn't come out this year. Wouldn't do him any good, I don't think. I wouldn't take him until the 3rd round. So, I think there's 2 quarterbacks. And maybe I do want to take a look at the Ole Miss quarterback though. He may be better than I'm giving him credit for. I think he might actually be good too. Is he eligible to come out? Feel like Jackson Dart, is he eligible to come out, or is this only his 2nd year? Feels like he's probably like a redshirt sophomore or something like that. And this is his 3rd year in college, and he's eligible for the draft. He's interesting too. But I'm glad I don't got to deal with none of that shit. Glad we got our guy already, for sure. Ghost Rider says Washington should have 2-game winning streak before the bye. Theoretically speaking, yes, when you look at the teams that they're playing, but you can't assume that. One at a time. One at a time. Respect the game. That's what you got to do. You got to respect the game. The minute you stop respecting the game, you get got. The last time Washington played in a snow game. Wow. Boy. That is a great question. I don't remember Washington playing in many snow games. That's a damn good question. I can't even remember. We've done rain a bunch. I don't remember snow though. I'm pretty sure there was a game late in the season at home that it had like snow flurries, but I don't think I recall Washington playing on a field that looked like the one tonight. Where they're shoveling off snow and stuff like that. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Thursday Night Football Overtime. Steelers, Browns, what a fun game it was. We got our first snow game of the season, and it did not disappoint. What was disappointing was the Steelers' performance tonight, not getting it done. Browns win this game 24-19 and upset the Steelers, who were 3.5-point favorites. 8-2, leading the division. Emotional win on Sunday over the Ravens, and they come 4 days later and have a letdown against the 2-8 Browns, who have now beaten both the Ravens and Steelers in Baltimore or in Cleveland this season. And, if you're the Steelers, I said this, this loss could be very costly in the grand scheme of things. I could see them fighting for their playoff lives come the end of the season. We talked about their schedule tonight. It's not an easy one. They got a bunch of their divisional games backloaded, 2 in a row. They're going to play their 3rd straight divisional foe next week on the road at Cincinnati. That'll be a massive game for the Bengals. If they have any hopes and aspirations of keeping their season alive, they're going to have to find a way to win that game. After that, they have a game against Cleveland again. This time they'll be at home. They should win that game. But then after that game, shit gets real murky for Pittsburgh. At Philadelphia, at Baltimore, home for Kansas City. They could easily lose 5 out of 6. Lose tonight, lose next week, beat Cleveland, then lose 3 straight at Philadelphia, at Baltimore, home for Kansas City. And if you do that, you're 9-7 and you're fighting for your playoff life. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Marquell Randall, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, losing to Steelers feels worse now, LOL. Losing to them just felt bad in general. That was a game. We were up 10 in the 3rd quarter, and we shouldn't have been done scoring for the game, essentially. We scored 1 more field goal after that. We should have scored 30, and 30 would have been enough to win that game. We had no business losing that game. None. And so this doesn't alter how I feel about that loss. It sucked when we lost to them because we felt like we were better than them. So Benjamin Slade, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Benjamin writes, LT, if you haven't learned nothing from the Steelers, they will make the playoff. Tomlin has a rabbit foot. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I didn't say they were going to miss the playoffs. I said they could miss the playoffs. I don't think the AFC is strong enough to keep them out. 10 wins gets you in. They're 2 wins away from 10. All they have to do is split with both Cincinnati and Cleveland, and that's 10, and they're in. And you're right. Tomlin doesn't know how to miss the playoffs, or he doesn't know, like, he didn't build this 8-2 start to just piss it away and end up 9-8 this season. That's not happening, right? They're not losing, 7 out of their final 8 games, or excuse me, 6 out of their final 7 games to end up 9-8. That's just not happening. You're absolutely spot on. They'll win 11 or 12 games when it's all said and done. They'll beat a team we don't think they're going to beat right now. They'll beat Philadelphia, or they'll beat the Ravens and sweep them, or they'll beat Kansas City at home. They'll win a game that we're not even thinking that they're going to win. Look at it on paper, and you're like, yo, they could lose this game. They'll probably beat Cincinnati both times, beat the Browns, and that's right there. That's 11 wins, right? But you're right. You're absolutely right. Tomlin has a rabbit foot. You're absolutely right. Big shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. Once again, if you haven't bet with BetUS, you're not betting with the best, head over to betus.com. Use the promo code YouTube150 to get you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit of up to $2,000, 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits of up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. It's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless and good night. Big win for the Browns. Very disappointing loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers. See you next time.